I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. Don't miss Cold's new Season 3, where I look into the unsolved disappearance of Cherie Warren, a woman last seen leaving her job at a Salt Lake City office in 1985. Police cast suspicion on Cherie's estranged husband and boyfriend, but never made any arrests or recovered Cherie's remains. Find Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction, but more importantly, it's about recovery. My name is Casey Scott, and if you know somebody who needs some help, have them do what I did and give Pinnacle Recovery Center a call. They can help you out just like they did me. Our guest today is Amy McAllister. We're going to talk to her in just a second, but Dr. Matt, you're telling me you got into the car and your son was playing a song. What song was he playing?
So after the earthquake yesterday, my teenage boys actually woke up and came upstairs, and they were like, what's going on? And we were talking, and I said, I'm going to pull the car out of the garage, because I vaguely in the back of my mind remembered, you can have aftershocks. And so I pulled the car out. When I came back in, they were playing REM's It's the End of the World as We Know It.
So your kid's got a sense of humor.
Big time.
So I've got a friend that I went to high school with. Her dad was actually the principal at my high school, Santiago Sandoval.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was at Ogden High.
Sexy.
Her name is Maria Sandoval, and she's been putting together this playlist that goes in line with the coronavirus and the earthquake. And so these are all songs that kind of you could put on your playlist.
Yeah.
So she's got I Feel the Earth Move by Carole King.
Right.
All Shook Up by Elvis Presley.
Yep.
Shake It Off, Taylor Swift. Yeah. AC/DC. You Shook Me All Night Long.
Shook Me All Night Long, right.
Bon Jovi, Bad Medicine. Bon Jovi, Social Disease. Bon Jovi has a lot of songs about diseases. Yeah. She's got Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive.
I Will Survive.
Because we will survive.
Yes.
Yep.
Foreigner, Urgent.
Yeah.
What else has she got? Infected by Bad Religion.
Oh, like
that's
that.
a good one.
Yeah.
Billy Idol, because what are we all doing? Dancing with ourselves.
That's
right.
Oh.
Lonely
Billy.
is the Night by Billy Squier. That guy and his guitar, he could rock.
Yeah, he can.
Let's see what else has she got on here. Let's Get Rocked. What's Up? Survivor by Destiny's Child. So maybe some songs.
No REM?
No REM. No, I think that was on there.
That was on there? Okay.
I think that's a given.
Well, good for her. That's a good list.
Yeah.
I like it.
And
that's an optimistic, that's a positive thing to do at a time like instead of dwell on the negative, have fun with it. Have a sense of humor.
And that's what I try to say in my last Facebook post. Is your hand sanitizer half full or half empty?
Well, that one's...
Wow, that is deep.
I feel,
right, Amy?
I feel
deep.
grateful that there's any in that, actually, because everywhere
that's
they
a positive,
go,
that's a positive way to look at it.
Totally positive.
And I used to say that when I was...
in fact, I doubt it. I walked into the building today, and it's like a ghost town here.
Yeah.
I walk into the building today, and there's a machine over to the side that I usually ignore, but I'm like, I'm going to get me some hand sanitizer, so I walk over there, and I thought, it's not going to have any in it, and it sure did.
See, sometimes life surprises you, Dr. Matt.
Right.
And I think our guest today is going to surprise us because she's already jumped in. She's bubbly. She's vivacious.
Right.
She's
She's got a
contagious.
big personality.
Not contagious with the virus.
No.
Let's make that very clear.
No. Well, not that you know.
Now that I'm in here
Right.
with you, cruise, post-cruise.
No, but
who
not
knows?
that you know. Not that you know.
Right.
You're right.
As Dr. Matt, who said he's a doctor, not a real doctor, but he's a doctor.
Type of
PhD.
doctor, as far as you know.
He said we could be asymptomatic.
Yeah. For a minimum of 2 weeks. I really think from what I've been reading lately, it's probably longer. So you could have it, be infected, and be spreading it to lots and lots of people for 2 to 3 weeks and not even know.
When's the last time me and you open mouth kissed?
It's been a while.
So
Before
I
the
think
cruise.
you're pretty safe.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah.
It was before the cruise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not kissing him after post-cruise kisses.
Not many people are.
You are a mouth kisser.
I am.
Yeah.
I kissed my dad on the mouth, Amy.
Your dad is going to die of the coronavirus.
No, I haven't kissed on him since I've been back.
Yeah.
But I thought every dude kisses their dad on the mouth. I didn't know until I went to college.
Okay, wait. I feel like this is a scene from Step Brothers.
No, but it is. I really did. I was up in college. My dad came up to visit. He left. I kissed him on the mouth.
Aww.
I walked back in. My fraternity brothers goes, "Did you just kiss your dad on the mouth?"
And they kicked all your stuff out on
And
the
I was like,
lawn.
seriously. And then
I
they
was
moved
like,
you into
yeah,
girls,
you guys
yeah.
don't kiss your dad on the mouth?
No.
I thought it was just the norm.
Yeah. I'm glad you still do.
Yeah.
Way to be different.
Oh, I'm definitely different. Amy, let's talk about you. So I don't know much about your story. You reached out to me. You said, I think your show could use a little female perspective, and I agree. And I wrote back to you, and I said, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So where does Amy's story start?
Amy's story starts like the typical Utah Mormon post-divorce story that you hear where, you know, like life was supposed to be perfect and then all of a sudden it wasn't. And so then...
How old were you when you got married the first time?
19.
Wow.
I turned 19 a month before I got married.
I have a 19-year-old right now. I'd strangle him.
Oh, I have a
We got
22-year-old.
married,
I'd
yeah,
strangle him. Yeah, we have a rule at our
But
house.
but that was normal, right?
That was
the
normal.
norm.
Yep. And had
How
the
long
first
had you?
kid
How
by
long had you known
21.
each other?
Oh, we were engaged like 6 months after we met.
Oh, so a
married,
long
like-
engagement.
Yeah, it was really long. We took our time. Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Before you were 19 and in love, engaged, and had the whole world figured out, had you drank or partied any before?
Like everybody in high school once in a while. It wasn't ever something that I like lived for on the weekends, but I mean, it wasn't like I had never tasted it. I think my first drink was 7th grade. I lived in El Paso, Texas. My best friend and I snuck out, walked along the Rio Grande in the middle of the night to our other friend's house who had a liquor cabinet and got drunk. And then 7th grade girls walked back along the Rio Grande home.
Wow, it's
Before
dangerous.
school. Yeah, we were really, really smart. So,
Well, 7th graders.
yeah. Well, like we like to say, but you're really pretty.
Bless her heart.
Bless her
Yeah,
heart.
bless her heart.
So that was my very first experience with alcohol. And then, yeah, just the normal every now and then high school parties, and then got married, and that was it, 'cause that's not what you did.
Did you, in high school, the now and then parties, would you consider that binge drinking? Were you drinking to get really wasted, or was it, having a sip here and there?
It was, I was kind of in the medium. It was just to have fun, but never to get totally wasted. Just, I kind of didn't like the feeling of being out of control back then, which is funny. I hated like nitrous at the dentist. I couldn't do the nitrous oxide. I hated pain pills. So as soon as I started to feel out of control, then I was like...
You were able to pull it back?
Yeah.
It scared you.
Yeah, I didn't like that, which is weird because then...
And I was the
That changed.
exact opposite. I thrived for that.
Yeah.
I used to tell people I love the unknown. I loved the crazy. I loved organized chaos.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought I thrived in. Now, to find out, I don't thrive in it. I thrive in structure, in organization. But, that's a learning curve, and we all do that.
Yeah.
So you got married, and did all the drinking halt then?
Yeah, we tried, we lived the good life, did things we were supposed to do, church, callings, 4 kids, did it all by the book. I'm putting
Did the kids
book in
come
my-
pretty quickly?
Yeah, so first kid by 21, and I was done by 28, so 4 kids in 7 years. So
Yeah, every other year about?
yeah,
Pair of Irish twins.
yeah, almost 20 months apart. So and then we got divorced, and then suddenly it was like, this is not what.
How old were you when you divorced?
How old am I now? I was 33, 34. So I've been divorced.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
why the
Why?
divorce?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, it was like a series of, it was 15 years of both of us kind of having problems that just fed off of each other. So, and for his sake, I mean, we are super good friends now. We live 5 minutes apart. I hang out at their house for Dodgers games. We get along great together. He had problems that I would exacerbate and vice versa. So 15
Not a
years.
good fit, huh?
Yeah, we just called it. And it was actually a really good decision. Like I said, we're super good friends now. I love his wife. He's been remarried for 10 years almost. They stepped in when I fell apart, and she became mom when my kids needed mom and stability. And so
And that's really cool for you to acknowledge that.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a lot of people who stepped in for me as dad when my life fell apart.
Yeah.
And I'll have no way to ever repay those people, but except say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because they did things that I should have been doing, but because of my disease, I wasn't able to do. And so for you to acknowledge that, I think that's really big of you, and I think that's really cool.
She played a huge part. My kids almost immediately moved in with them before I went to detox, but once it was obvious that my life was out of control, all 4 of them moved over there, and she didn't bat an eye. She would come visit me every Sunday in rehab, make sure things were good. She's currently helping me plan this wedding. I mean, she's one of my best friends because of that. She just...
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's get to the meat of it.
Yeah.
When did the wheels start to fall off, or was it a slow or a long process?
It was pretty quick. What what set everything off, my second serious relationship, I've actually been divorced twice, so the second relationship was the super toxic, kind of abusive, narcissistic type of thing, and so it was a emotional numbing. It was the only way I knew how to deal. So then it did become drink to black out, drink to hide, drink to cover up everything.
How quickly did you get remarried?
Got remarried in 16, so it's 6 years after. So, but I dated this guy off and on for like 4 years, knew what I was getting into, but was already a mess by then. So married, and then thinking getting married would fix it, and just made
it
life.
Doesn't.
Oh, living hell.
No, everybody knows having a baby fixes it.
Yeah, that's the part we didn't do. If we'd had a baby, we would have been fine.
Was that even on the table?
No. No. It was never good. It was toxic from the beginning, and we knew it. It literally was like, well, if we're married and we have this commitment to each other, then maybe we'll stop treating each other the way we do. And
let me ask you this, because I was in, toxic relationships, with myself, with other people, and I knew it. I mean, I could sit and tell you, yeah, this is not a good relationship. And people go, why don't you go? Why don't you get out of it? And I would go, I don't know, because either I'm scared, this is comfortable, this is the only thing I know. But I mean, I knew in my head, get out.
I've written blog posts about this. It's because it's the new addiction. It's then you're in this relationship that's super toxic, and so you're like, I'm done. We're over. We've got to end this. And then you go in a day or two, and you're like, wait a minute. I need that fix. Like whether it was high or low, whether it was a love
intensity
high
is a
or
good word.
Hate high. I mean, it was just toxicity is toxicity, and it's still an addiction. So even when I wasn't drinking, when I would try to escape that relationship, then I'd be like, oh, I need the drama. Oh, I need the fight. So, yeah, why can you not get out of it?
I mean, there are various reasons for different people, but part of what you're talking about has to do with neurochemically. We have chemicals in our body that create feeling good. Dopamine is one that we talk about. Having adrenaline course through your body is very enticing to a lot of people. And so when you use the word drama, the drama that comes from a toxic relationship, that high and low and all of that in between, and that can become in and of itself something that sort of charges a person up, similar to taking drugs. There are also other factors. Sometimes we are working through and working past issues in relationships from our childhood.
I don't want another failed relationship. Maybe I'll have to look at myself and think it's me.
Can be that for sure. It can be a lot of toxic relationships have to do with the issue of control and being controlled and controlling others. And sometimes we grow up in such a way that control is an unhealthy aspect in our life, and so we get in these toxic controlling relationships, and it's like a magnet to try to fix it, but we don't consciously realize we're doing that until perhaps we've worked it out with a therapist or someone. And so, yeah, there are various reasons why that can be a type of addiction, sure.
And sometimes, and this just popped into my head, control is a currency. That's the only currency I have, is the control. And so that's the only thing that I have power in this relationship. And so
some people are on, sometimes you're in the position of being the controllee, and sometimes you're in the position of being the controller, and it can get pretty ugly.
So what was your DOC? Was it alcohol?
Alcohol turned to the whole, Macklemore, Addy, Klonopin, alcohol, just
whatever you could get.
Yeah. Adderall to get up in the morning, Klonopin to calm down, alcohol to go to bed.
But that's
alcohol
a big shift. Like
Adderall.
You said, growing up all your life, you didn't like that feeling of being out of control.
Well,
do you remember when that changed?
What changed was the alcohol was always out of control, and so then the Adderall came in to kind of bring me back into control. So then I could drink more, still feel a little bit in control, feel like I was still, able to accomplish things and get things done, and, had that drive again where the alcohol would take it away. So it just became the perfect little cocktail.
But if you're on the Adderall all day long, you're not getting your sleep, so you needed something to bring you down.
So then it was Klonopin, and then it was the Ambien, and then it was the alcohol. And so, I just had my...
It's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, and then throw in a toxic relationship, and it's whatever at that moment I can get my hands on to get through that day.
It reminds me of this time we lived in where there was a virus going on, and then all of a sudden they threw an earthquake in.
Back in the day, yeah.
Remember those days?
I heard about that, yeah.
I mean, it was like, rough. What else can I handle?
Right. We're too far for a typhoon, right?
Yeah. You're listening to Project Recovery. We're listening to McAllister story, Amy. I almost forgot your name.
I am so glad you didn't. That would have been awkward.
And we're going to come back and we're going to find out how the wheels fell off and what she's doing now.
Two years ago, Americans watched in horror as a crisis unfolded at the Kabul airport.
She was tear-gassed and beaten.
Images of thousands desperate to escape Taliban oppression filled our news feeds. More than 80,000 Afghans made it to America. But the story didn't end there.
It was very cold. There was no power, no heat.
Who would help our newest neighbors? I'm Andrea Smartin. In Stranger Becomes Neighbor, you'll hear the stories of some remarkable refugees who left their homes and their dreams behind, only to start over from zero.
Their only possession was 3 blankets.
And you'll meet Americans who stepped up to help them.
You want me to come when you deliver your baby.
What can one person do in the face of an international disaster decades in the making? That's Stranger Becomes Neighbor. Find us at kslpodcast.com, follow us on Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you listen.
All right, Amy, so you said it started to get ugly, and you had a cocktail of cocktails, Ambient, Adderall, whatever you could get to keep this vicious cycle going. Do you remember a rock bottom?
Yeah, so I went and bought a car. I took all 4 of my kids with me, and I was on, I believe, Xanax and alcohol. My doctor had prescribed, no, it was Ativan. My doctor had prescribed me Ativan to help me try to wean off. So I took them both and then took all my kids to go buy a car. So I bought a car I don't remember buying, drove all 4 of my kids home in this car, and my son said, like, I spent most of the time driving up on the curb, you know, on the way home. And so got home. That was kind of a wake-up call. Then the family got involved, intervention.
When you say that out loud, because I've had moments that when I say it out loud, it just cuts to my core, and it makes me visibly shake. Do you get that?
There is so much shame and guilt involved in thinking about things that you put people through and the danger you put your own family in, that for a long time I wouldn't tell that story. That was kind of the secret story that my son told in rehab, but we didn't talk about again. And it's something I've had to go through therapy to kind of get past that shame. Because when we stick in that shame cycle, then that's what gets us back to using. You know, we can't handle the shame. So physically, I don't get the physical reaction, but emotionally, I still kind of sit here and cringe that I'm telling people that, yeah, I drove up on the sidewalk with 4 of my kids and don't remember it. I woke up on my bathroom floor once with a concussion, naked, had fallen out of the shower, just vomit everywhere. Those are the types of things you don't usually tell people. Yeah. And that was after treatment. That was during a relapse. That was after I divorced my second husband, and it threw me way off. So
you said after you drove the kids home, buying a car you don't remember, your family got involved. Yeah. And what did that look like?
So I went to lunch with my sister, showed up drunk. She was like, how often are you drinking? And my daughter was with me, so I had driven my daughter there to lunch, and I just said, I mean, when you're drunk, you don't really care. I was just like, all the time. And so she drove me to my mom and dad's house, and we just kind of had a conversation. And within about an hour, I was checked into Provo Canyon for detox. And I thought all I was going to do was detox because I wasn't an alcoholic. I just needed a break.
I'm not one of them.
Yeah, not one of them. I just drink. And then I had a good friend that was in Cirque at the time and found out I was across the street at Provo Canyon. So he got admissions involved, and they walked across the street, talked to me, and convinced me.
And Cirque Lodge is a residential facility.
Yeah. Convinced me that I needed to stay for 30 days of residential. So I did my 30 days at Cirque. And
what was that experience like? Because, you know, in the recovery world, that seems to be the gold standard, even in the United States. I mean, celebrities go there. I mean, this is the posh place to go. What was it like inside those walls?
Well, and I went to the lodge, or the studio. I didn't go to the lodge, so I wasn't up there with all of, the A-listers. Yes, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Cirque Forever.
I hear they do wonderful things.
It was a wonderful program. Never felt like there was a division between money or not money, status or no status. And I remember thinking that this was something that everybody should do. I mean, alcoholic, addict, anything. To take a break, to focus on yourself, to learn coping skills, to learn relationship skills, to have no outside intrusions, things messing with your head. I remember being 2-3 weeks in going, why doesn't everybody get a 30-day break? You're the only other
person. I say that all the time, Matt. I go, when I would talk to people, I go, hey, look, if you can get 45 days in Pinnacle without an addiction, take it.
Take it.
Yeah, to just check on yourself. And at 45, to sit down and go, okay, I'm going to deal with things that bother me, because as a parent, you don't have those times because you're worried about everybody else, or you're numbing it, or you haven't really addressed those issues. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, so do I. From a psychological point of view, I think if somehow we could get 2 to 4 weeks per year where we could have that sort of an experience and work on ourselves and learn to increase our self-awareness, that would be amazing. Is there a candidate this year running on that platform?
No, but I think
we're onto something.
I'll vote for Amy.
We're getting 3 weeks right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
honestly.
It's like, sort of.
With a little stress involved.
Yeah.
So you went to Cirque and you did 30 days there, and you found the time very valuable.
Extremely.
And when you got out, ready to take on the world.
Oh yeah, pink cloud. I mean, I rode that pink cloud for a long time.
For those who do feel like it was actually helpful.
I really do. Yeah. The one detriment was I didn't get out of that toxic relationship. So I was already in the toxic relationship when I went into treatment. Came out of treatment and stayed in that toxic relationship, thinking that now I had the tools to handle this relationship, so it would be okay.
And you said you're on a pink cloud. What is that?
Pink cloud in recovery. That's when everything's good. Like, you've beat this. You've got all the tools now. Like, you can see the future.
Sounds a little Pollyannish.
I mean, it really is.
Is that what you're implying by a pink cloud?
Unicorns flying around.
I'll put it in terms and you could understand.
Thank you.
You know that feeling you got when you saw the first Rocky movie?
Yes.
And you came out of the theater.
Oh, yeah.
And you felt like you could fight the world.
Oh, yeah.
Anything's possible.
You want to run upstairs with your hands over your head.
You want to punch things. You're a world champ.
Right. Okay.
That's the pink cloud.
All right. That's pretty enticing.
But that happens to a lot of people because you've lived in a structured environment. They've told you what to do. You haven't used substances for the past 30 days, and you think
physically you're probably feeling
your
so
head's
much
clear.
better.
You know, the past is something you do have to deal with, but the future seems manageable all of a sudden.
But then you walk out and reality smacks you
all
in the
face. All the problems are still there, maybe worse.
Yeah.
Absolutely worse, because the things you were numbing and had forgotten about are there tenfold. The debts have piled up. The relationships are broken. The jobs may be suspended or gone. I mean, It's easy to live in this pink cloud in treatment because nobody's worrying about that stuff. They tell you they'll help you deal with that later. And
right.
You get out and bam.
So you're back into the toxic relationship.
Back in it for another 3 years.
How long did you stay sober this time?
So that first time I managed a year, and then I had a little relapse, and then I got sober again.
What is a little relapse? I mean, just for people to know, because everyone's relapse is a little different. And I think those of us that are in recovery will say a little relapse. We all get it. But for family members and people listening at home, what does a little relapse look like?
So this is what I like to tell people. So I work at Ardu, as you know, and what I like to tell clients is there's a relapse and there's a slip up, in my opinion. A relapse is when you slip up, but you let that shame cycle take over, and you're like, screw it, and you just dive deep back into your addiction because you know what, you've already screwed up once, you can't do it, and you go straight back into it. To me, that's a relapse.
Let me explain that to Matt. So, Matt, you've got a sleeve of Oreos. Okay?
Yes.
And you said you're not going to eat any more Oreos.
These are terms I can understand.
And all of a sudden you walk by, and for some reason, you grab one Oreo. Mm-hmm. You pop it in your mouth, and you go, whoa.
Yeah, haven't had an Oreo in a while. That tastes good.
Oreo.
That's a good Oreo. Mm-hmm. But I know my problem with Oreos. I should probably not go back to that sleeve. And so I'm going to move on. That's a slip.
Okay.
When you finish that sleeve of Oreos.
When you're like, screw it, I might as well eat the whole thing.
Yeah. I've already had one. Might as well finish it.
Gotcha.
That's a relapse.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a behavioral. The relapse has behavior involved, eating the whole sleeve. Mm-hmm. But it's also a mindset, isn't it? It's an emotional giving up.
It's an emotional giving up. It's a shame cycle that you allow to take over. Yeah. A slip up is you stop and you're like, what am I doing? this isn't who I am. I've learned tools to get past this. I can put this away and I can move on.
Okay.
And so I had, when I say a little relapse, it was short in that toxic relationship because at that point, the toxic relationship had gotten sober. So that was actually one of the good things there is he was like, you know what, we're done. So that helped, and I was able to stay sober for 3 more years.
Okay.
And then got divorced, and
the second divorce.
And that was the nosedive off of the Eiffel Tower into.
Could I ask you a personal question?
Absolutely.
What hurt worse, the first divorce or the second divorce?
Second, 100%.
Why?
Because it was the failure. I was trying to prove this relationship was so toxic all along, and I was trying to prove to everybody in my life that I could make it work, that I had the power to fix him, fix me, stay together, get people to like him. You know, there were so many a second failure. Everybody gets divorced. It feels like when you get divorced.
Well, in this room,
twice,
that would be
raise
true.
your hand if you've been divorced.
100%. Yep.
So, and in this community, when you get divorced twice, and we'd only been married 360 days by the time our divorce was final, even though I'd been with him for about 4 years prior to that. But it was such a feeling of failure and just embarrassment, having to tell people everybody had warned me and having to go back and be like, you were right, you were right, you were right, I was wrong. It destroyed me.
So you got out of the toxic relationship. And
Barely.
Barely. Is that what you said?
Barely.
What does that mean?
Barely. Like it almost killed me. Like in that second relapse, I spent a couple months in bed drinking. I quit my job. I was suicidal. I could not get past that minute, let alone that day.
Where are your kids in all this?
With their dad.
And so had you been trying to rebuild the relationship with them?
So they were very much against the second marriage and very, I don't want to say, very hateful, I guess, towards the second husband. So they kept their distance, which was another part of the shame and guilt cycle that I kept because I'd done this to my family. I'd brought hell into our family again with this person. So they kind of stayed away, and they were thrilled that we were divorced, but at the same time they saw that he still kind of had that power over me and that I crumbled afterward too. So they stayed away. They knew I was drinking. They knew I was, just to paint a picture, it was me in bed, Friends reruns, 24/7, except to go out and buy alcohol and milk and cereal for 2 months straight. So
wow,
it was
how did that affect you physically?
I was just rotting away, literally. When I say I was suicidal, it really was me on my knees every night just saying, I can't do this one more day. It's the noise in your head. There's not enough alcohol to drown it out. It's the havoc you've already wreaked that you can't fix. There's no way. There's now all this new debt. There's, like I said, the shame, the embarrassment, the guilt. You've lost the job. How are you going to keep paying for life? Like, people are sick of you. Your family's done. They've warned you. You keep doing this.
Did you ever look in the mirror and not recognize who's staring back?
I refused to look in the mirror for about 6 months because I hated what I saw. Hated it. I put on 50 pounds in 3 months, which laying in bed drinking alcohol will do.
Eating cereal.
And just cortisol levels. And I went through every possible antidepressant on the books. I went to my doctor weekly and I was like, this isn't working. Give me something else. This isn't working. Give me something else. And he was just like, it's not a pill. You've got to.
And so you've mentioned that your kids have distanced themselves from you at this point. You've isolated yourself to your room, eating cereal, drinking alcohol, watching Friends. What about your family? What are they doing during this time?
Distance. My sister and I actually just started speaking again about a week ago, actually. And this was all 3 years ago. She just was done. She was fed up. She couldn't take it anymore. She didn't want to watch me continue to build up everybody's hope and expectations and then she slowly pulled away, but she officially pulled away 2 Thanksgivings ago, and we didn't speak till, honestly, a week ago.
Do you blame her?
No, not at all. I don't. And that's the thing. I never was upset with her. I know she hasn't been through it. She doesn't understand
addiction,
the science behind it, and that it wasn't me choosing to be a horrible older sister. It wasn't me choosing to let everybody down. It was something that was literally beyond my control. And it took me proving it consistently for her to be like, okay, I believe you.
So she had set boundaries.
Yeah.
And
very firm boundaries.
And held them. So kudos to her.
Yeah.
Does she understand the science of addiction now, do you think?
I think I think in a way she did then. She was just protecting herself. I'm her older sister. And like I said, everyone in my family had warned me and had tried to keep me away from certain situations, and I wouldn't listen. And I mean, my parents set boundaries, not quite as firm as her, and so she was really frustrated with my parents because she felt like I was the favorite and I was being enabled, and in a lot of ways I was, because I was being rescued, and it did.
They were doing what they knew.
Yeah, everybody did.
You're listening to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction. We're listening to Amy McAllister's story. Make sure you tune in to part 2. We're going to find out about her second run at rehab and what she's doing now.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.